Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is thank. Let's take a look at the definitions or ways that we can use this verb. The first and most common way that you will hear the verb thank used is to mean to express gratitude to another person. Another way we might hear this word used is appreciation, right? So if someone has done something nice, kind, helpful, right, it's common for us to express our gratitude, to say thank you. A second and maybe less common way to hear this verb used is to mean to assign blame or responsibility for something. And with this definition, we're using the word a bit sarcastically. So we're not always that grateful, or we're not really expressing gratitude, but again, sort of assigning blame. So imagine you have something planned for outdoors, right? But then the weather is really bad, right? So we might say, we have the weather to thank for having this event inside now, right? So we have the weather to blame. You should know that thank is a regular verb. To make the progressive tense, you can add ing to form thank you. The past tense and participle forms of this verb are made by adding ed. The verb thank ends in a K sound, so our ed is going to make a T sound. Thanked, thanked. You'll be happy to know I don't have any additional phrasal verbs or additional meanings for us to learn from this verb. So that's going to allow us to move on and practice making some different sentences with our verb thank. And today what we're going to look at is making sentences that express advice. And the most common way that you're going to hear someone talk about giving advice is with the modal should. Okay? So whenever we give affirmative advice to someone, we'll use should and then the base verb. So let's take a look at my first example sentence. We should thank all the healthcare workers for all of their hard work. We know so many nurses, doctors, pharmacists, lab technicians, etc. The janitorial staff at our hospitals have all been working very, very hard during this pandemic. So I think this is solid advice that we need to express our gratitude to these individuals anytime we see them. If I want to make a sentence, but I'm giving someone advice not to do an action, right? Then what you're going to see is should not, and then the base verb. So let's take a look at an example sentence. You shouldn't thank me until you see the finished product. Right? So here, someone's giving advice that don't start thanking me before before you, in particular, see what this looks like in the end, right? And then that might be because there's some question of what it's going to look like at the end. If I want to ask a question where I'm asking someone what they would advise me to do, I can start with the modal should, then we'll have the subject, and then the base verb. So here's an example question. Should I thank the audience after a presentation? So I've been reading different articles about presentation skills, and I saw this one posed as some advice other people had sought regarding the proper way to interact with an audience. There is another way that you might hear people express advice. And that is with the phrase ought to and the base verb. So you're only going to hear ought to used in the affirmative. We will not have a negative, so there's no ought not. don't do that. And we don't ask questions with ought either. So let's take a look at another example sentence. We ought to thank all of our frontline workers. Okay? So this here expands beyond just healthcare, but many of our essential workers who have been out working with the public day in, day out throughout the pandemic. But I have one other little note. Sometimes when native speakers say the phrase ought to, it sounds more like oughta. And so I've made a little note here so that if you would hear that pronunciation, you understand what they're saying. There's one last way to give advice, and it's considered to be the most strongly worded way to give advice. And when we use had, better, and a base verb, what we are implying with our advice is that something bad is going to happen if we do not follow that advice. So let's take a look at an example sentence. She had better thank her parents for their help. So here we might be using had better because we're implying if she doesn't say thank you, she might not get the help again in the future. That could be the consequence. Okay? You can make negative sentences with this form for advice. And to do that, we're going to use had, better, not, and then the base verb. So let's take a look at this. You had better not thank them until it is completed. So again, this might be implying they'll just stop if you say thank you. So hold off with that thank you until the work is finished. Now let's take a look at some words that are related to our verb thank. And the first word we're going to look at is the noun thanks. So I'm going to point out we really don't have a noun form of our verb without an S, so in the singular. So the noun thanks with an S is an expression of gratitude. Let's take a look at this word in a sentence. Let's give thanks for our health. You might hear this noun form used in prayers. If you attend church or worship services, that's pretty common as well. So that might be a phrase you hear on an upcoming holiday. The next word we're going to look at is the adjective thankful. It means expressing gratitude. A synonym for thankful is grateful. Here's an example of this usage. I'm very thankful for my hardworking students. And this is very much a true statement for me. And this applies to my students present and in the past. I've stayed in touch with a lot of former students, and I know how hard they work in their jobs as well as with their studies. And I appreciate it. A second way you might hear the adjective thankful used is to mean pleased and relieved. So here is an example of that. I will be so thankful once everyone is vaccinated. Right? So once we get past this point where COVID is really a threat for all of us, right, I'm going to feel pleased and relieved. The last word I'm going to leave you with today is the noun Thanksgiving. It's an annual holiday in North America that celebrates a harvest festival. So if you're living in the United States, there's a good chance you're celebrating Thanksgiving on the fourth Thursday in November. I'll point out that Canada also celebrates Thanksgiving. They do it in October, though. And again, it's a holiday that happens every year. It has existed sort of for about 400 years. It commemorates the original, I guess, event was about 400 years ago. And very much a holiday that celebrates eating And the main idea, though, is to give thanks. So here is an example sentence for this noun. How are you celebrating Thanksgiving this year? I know it probably looks very different for many people because generally Thanksgiving is a holiday where many people come together. It's common to have big family celebrations, but we know that is not a safe activity for us this year. So I hope everyone who's watching this video is keeping yourself and your loved ones safe. I will be having a piece of pie with some people outside and more than 6 feet away to stay safe. And I just want to take a moment to say thanks to everyone who watches the videos, who shares the videos with other friends. I really appreciate it. It's been kind of wonderful to connect with people in this format since it's been very difficult to teach in person. So I am very thankful for everyone who watches these videos. I hope you have a great day.